Ramesh Ranjan, the founder and editor of humanengineers.com, a popular HR blog and website in the world. Welcome to this HR talk show, People at Work, where we share unique knowledge and experiences and address the people side of business. We all vouch that people are our greatest asset and our only lasting competitive advantage. But then how do we leverage the full potential of people and organizations is a question on everyone's mind. A lot has been said, written, and debated, and beaten to death about leadership. Is organization only as good as its people, or is an organization only as good as its leader? Many think that the topic of leadership has been beaten to death. Is it so? Well, we have with us Adil Malia, a renowned and veteran HR leader who brings a new perspective to leadership and will be talking to us on esoteric leadership. Adil has over 4 decades of corporate experience in India and overseas, having worked in national, multinational companies like Godrej, General Electric, Marks and Spencer's, Coca-Cola, and SR. He is currently the CEO at the business consulting organization called The Firm. He is an expert in law, industrial relations, human resources, marketing, OD at senior management and board levels, and now into business management consulting. He's a much sought after business coach to some of the well-recognized CEOs in business. He's a prolific writer, and believe me, he reels out articles almost every day. He writes in several magazines, is well quoted for his radical and creative thinking and opinions. He's a well-recognized doodler, a social media enthusiast, a reputed keynote speaker, and when not at work, he plays the Mohanavina. He has a commerce degree, a bachelor's degree in law, a master's degree in human resource management from the Tata Institute of Social Science. He's also attended the program with Coca-Cola Wharton Advanced Management Program. For his renowned work and career, he has been bestowed a causa honoris doctorate in philosophy. We are privileged to have you on the show, Adil. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Ramesh.
Thanks for
my
coming.
privilege to be invited to this forum. Thank you very much, Ramesh.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show and taking the time off your busy schedule.
My pleasure, totally.
In the olden days, achieving esoteric knowledge meant getting initiated into the mystical arts, learning secrets unknown to regular folks. Now, when a subject is called esoteric, it's usually something not so mystical, but still hard to penetrate. For many, financial accounting might sound esoteric. The Westerners may find the game of cricket esoteric. Similarly, for Indians, the game of rugby would sound esoteric. So what is so esoteric about leadership? What are the secrets about leadership that we haven't discovered so far? Well, Adil is here to unravel before us. Well, let's turn it over to Adil himself to unravel the secrets of esoteric leadership. Over to you, Adil.
So thank you very much, Ramesh. As I said, it is absolutely a matter of great pleasure for me to be invited to your website do this interview. And you are right, actually, whilst it is very necessary in life to keep things as simple as one sees, and we have all been told over a period of our education and a period of our experiences to keep things absolutely easy so people can understand. So on the one hand, there is this desire to keep things very simple and short. On the other hand, is a necessary realization that we need to arrive at, that we are indeed living in a complex world, and our desire to see things in a very simplistic format should not make us lose out on understanding the complex under the root reality, which is the outcome of what our behaviors are all about. So simplicity, yes, important, but also necessary to understand certain complexities that we are talking about. Of course, when we talk about the butterfly effect, we understand it is simple to understand that the fluttering of a butterfly, maybe in the Amazon forests, can have an effect of causing a tornado or a typhoon somewhere else, thousands and thousands of miles away. It means that simplicity to understand, one can understand, but under the roots, there are a lot of complex realities which are prevailing. And we should not, in our desire to talk about simplicity, miss out on the complexity, because that is the reality of what is really happening. So let me bring you to this whole thing, that the human mind and the human emotions are far more complex than some of these realities. And therefore, in organizations, when we are dealing with people as the prime resource from where value gets created, in a dynamically changing world where organizational realities are also changing on the other hand, there is a complex relationship, and therefore there is a certain distinct complex style. In a very simple way, that complexity has to be managed. And that is the key theme of what the message that we want to share with you about. All right. So there are two concepts, by the way, which are new concepts that I'll be talking about. Number one is what we call esoteric leadership, and I'll try and demystify the mystic of esoteric leadership on the one hand. And on the other hand, I want to also talk about what we call the integrated plasticity in an organization. All right. So I'm going to be talking about a concept called whole system integrated plasticity, about which I'm also writing a certain paper on. All right. So let's begin by saying that leadership is not necessarily a game of position, power, or glamour as it is understood by people. People tend to believe that it is a game of power, it is a game of glamour, it is a game of position, control, and things like that. Reality is that leadership is not possible till the followers who are following the leader have a total element of trust, belief, and confidence in that leader. All right. So what is important is that it is not about someone being positioned as a leader and automatically tomorrow morning, all the followers will look up to him and say, oh God, he's appointed as a leader, let's go and follow him. Or that if they do not trust him, they will follow him. So there are one too many elements in the behavior, style, character of the leader, which makes him a real leader to be able to deliver what he's expected to deliver. So the real game is about delivering two common purposes collectively as a system. So as a system, people come together, and for which the leader is supposed to lead. The collective system is supposed to be delivering to its purpose, and a leader is supposed to guide them, and through the followers, fulfill the purpose for which the system has been created. All right. Generally, we find that whilst all the other systems in an organization are in place, whether in adverse times like the times that we are experiencing now, or in peaceful times, even otherwise, suppose if there was no COVID, there was no other adversity in the world, even otherwise we find that whilst in an organization, most systems fall in place, leadership effectiveness is by far the most common missing piece in the whole story. So leadership follows and conduces and conducts the processes of the organizations, but is unable to show its effectiveness. And therefore, this session that I want to talk about is how do leaders get into the mystic and the mystery and the charisma of leadership to be able to drive and give results to the organization. All right. So we need to understand, therefore, esoteric leadership.
Right.
organization fulfillment of two goals. Organizations anywhere in the world have two goals, a conscious goal and a subconscious or an unconscious goal, all right?
Yeah.
So the conscious goal is always to attain the value creation journey for which the organization has undertaken itself, right? So there is a value creation journey, which is the, Ramesh, the purpose for which you are existing.
Right.
On the other hand, the unspoken expectation or the unspoken purpose of the organization is to fulfill the first purpose of creating value in an enabling environment which creates happiness and generates flourish. Now, everyone, and suddenly over the last 4 or 5 years, we are talking about happiness being the purpose, but generally happiness is the purpose because you want to fulfill the prime purpose of creating value in an enabling environment. And if that enabling environment does not generate happiness or does not generate flourish, then the dependent variable, which is independent, stops supporting the purpose of value creation. And that's a very, very simple thing. To be able to do, therefore, to create that enabling environment of happiness and flourish, what do organizations need? Organizations need 4 things. Number 1, clarity of directions and a strategy to fulfill its value creation. Number 1. Number 2 is an integrated capability. Everyone may have a vision of creating value, but most organizations might not have the capability, or in adverse situations, the capability required may be far more different than what it was required in the previous situation. So right. Number 1 is clarity and directions and strategy. Number 2 is integrated capability. The third and the fourth are most critical. Efficient execution, and fourth is esoteric leadership. So unless and until these 4 elements are existing, organizations cannot create value. And particularly in times like what we are facing, because of adversity, the capability and the esoteric leadership does not cope with the new challenges that are required, and as a consequence of which organizations tend to fail. All right. Now, let me explain the difference between when we are talking about efficiency, when we are talking about esoteric leadership. Let me explain 2 very, very simple concepts which each one of us in whichever walk of life we are operating in, we experience. One is called efficiency and the other is called effectiveness. We need to understand as leaders the differentiation between efficiency and effectiveness, all right? So every organization over a period of time invests resources, systems, technology, and processes. There are RSTPs of an organization. To succeed, you have resources, you have systems, you have technology, and you have processes. Now, when you invest that and you want to utilize that to create value, you put in systems and processes to be able to do that. Now, it is a pure mathematical game, all right? It's a game of mathematics. If your car gives you 50 kilometers an hour and you put in 50 liters of fuel inside, your chances are that you will go without any leakages 2,500 kilometers without any problem. Capacity 50 kilometers a liter, and you put in 50 liters of fuel inside. Now, 50 therefore becomes the level of efficiency that if everything else runs at an efficient level, your systems, processes, and resources should give you an X amount of result. That is about efficiency. And this, one of the greatest blunders, Ramesh, I have seen is that most organizations and most people tend to believe they make a huge confusion between manager and a leader. Unfortunately, literature has also supported everything wrong being done is shown as that of a managerial role. Everything right that is being done is shown as the role of a leadership. Everything black is manager, everything white is leadership, and which is such a foolish kind of distinction that most people create. Every role and every job performed in an organization has got both the managerial responsibilities and the leadership responsibilities. You can have no job, including the job of a CEO, which will be devoid of managerial responsibilities and only be filled with leadership responsibilities. Therefore, when you're working with your resources, systems, technology, and processes to give the outcome of what the system is otherwise capable of doing is called efficiency. You're efficiently deriving the results to create the value. And that is what the role of an effective manager is. All right. A good manager is supposed to ensure without leakage creation of that. Now, then comes the role of leadership, where because 2,500 kilometers or the maximum optimum result of your efficiencies have ended, effective leaders through their esoteric leadership styles can create an output from people much higher than what efficiency is all about, or much higher than what the physical resources, systems, technology, and processes could create. Right. Over and above that. And that is why the value of esoteric leadership or effective leadership comes in, that they are able to create results, they are able to create value much higher than the optimum, that its optimum utilization of RSTCs can create. All right. So that is the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. And an organization to successfully create value, happiness, and flourish needs both efficiency, which its management style will create, and effectiveness, which its leadership creates. So, Ramesh, is this concept clear, or does it require any further clarification?
It's clear, Adil. It's like, people normally say a good leader, esoteric leader is able to, with ordinary people, produce extraordinary results.
Sure. And extraordinary leaders can really produce extraordinary results for the system as well.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's very, very critical. All right. Esoteric leadership, therefore, is about using charisma, presence, magnetism, mystic, and magic of leadership. So there are some of these elements which defy the science, defy the bonded logical knowledge of management that we have learned over a period of time through all literature and colleges and education. So it is about using the charisma. No one teaches you how to create a charisma. No one teaches you how to create your presence, your magnetism in the role that you are performing, and using the mystic and magic of leadership to create that additional output, that additional value, which the systems, processes, and resources cannot create. Right. And that is what esoteric leadership is all about. Okay. Now, unfortunately, we have been taught over a period of time that whatever is logical can be learned, whatever is science that can be learned, whatever is mathematical that can be learned, because it can be formulated. But whatever defies the rational logic, or whatever cannot be seen, or whatever cannot be put into mathematical algorithmic equations cannot be learned. And that is where the whole mistake happens. All right. The matchless outcomes that we are looking out for, which is going beyond what the resources, beyond what the processes can deliver, are outcome of a leader's ability to create a breakthrough in the understanding of how people are to be managed. How do you create higher value by using people and your leadership styles to enable them to deliver value which is much higher. Okay. Right. So formula is very simple. If you succeed in breaking the code of mystical leadership, or if you succeed in understanding the magical formula that goes into making esoteric leadership, then the formula that you have to remember is very simple. You have to learn the logic of science, and you have to learn to break the code of the magic of leadership. And then between the two of them, you will be able to fulfill the value creation agenda of your organization, the happiness agenda of your organization, and the flourish agenda of your organization. And that's the magic of it. Now, the purpose of esoteric leadership is to use a leadership advantage. Till now, you have been using the advantages of the resources, the processes, the systems, but esoteric leadership is about using the unique leadership advantage to inspire, to motivate, to engage, and to connect with the people so that you deliver outcomes which are much higher than the limits of efficiency. Efficiency as a limit. How do you gain a unique, sustainable advantage from leadership which connects and motivates with the people so that along with them, you are able to create results which are much higher than what your investment in resources and systems is all about, all right? Now, the question again is that when you break through, When you break through the shell of mystical leadership, or when you break through the shell of esoteric leadership, what do you find inside? Now, I am going to be limiting myself to 25 minutes only, but though we run an entire course on this, I'm not going to be going into the details of it. I will tell you what are some of the 7 things that you will find inside the shell. If you were to dissect the shell of mystical leadership or dissect the shell of esoteric leadership, what will you find inside? Number 1, you will find authenticity, positivity, and spiritual integrity. All right. So that's the first part of it. Authenticity, positivity, and spiritual integrity. Number 2, when you will go inside, what will you find? You will find a tremendous amount of courage, which is why you say a leader, where do you put courage in the entire equation of efficiency? There is no courage required, because it is about systems, effectiveness of systems, efficiencies, ensuring no leakages, etc., etc. But then where is the role of courage that we are talking about? A leader has got to be courageous. A leader has got to be brave, to be able to face the challenges of adversity that hide him out, right? So therefore, when you will dissect the shell of esoteric leadership, the second element you will find inside is called courage, resilience, and vitality. How do you revitalize the system? Because whenever there is adversity, your system loses its elasticity, loses its vitality, and tends to crumple down. Depressions set in. So how do leaders who are courageous with the resilience are able to revitalize or put elasticity in their entire style and people, so that they are able to create better results? So that's the second part of it. The third element of esoteric leadership, when you will cut through the shell, you will find inspiration, influence, and soft touch. All right, because at these kinds of times, soft touch is very, very critical. And influence and inspiration, because whilst you require soft touch, it is not like a nurse who's going to put some bandage on it, but that soft touch is to influence and inspire people to get up from the positions that they have fallen and to feel depressed that, oh my God, my world has come to an end, to normalize it from, to temper it from a state of disaster to, you see, there is what we call a state of normalization. That is, people tend to believe in moments of adversity that you are between the two states of a disaster or minimalization. Oh, it has no effect at all. You know, right in the beginning, oh, it will pass away. Don't worry. You know, this COVID and all is nothing. You know, people are making too much out of it. So you are totally avoiding it and minimalizing it. On the other hand, you try to create a disaster sense out of it, to say, oh my God, world is coming to an end. This is Armageddon. You know, Nostradamus had predicted the world is ending. So this is the beginning of the end. So a leader from the sense has to then create a certain element of normalization. And this happens through his soft touch, through inspiration and influence. That's the third thing that you will find. The fourth thing in the shell of esoteric leadership you will find is empathy, passion, and compassion. All right. Empathy is leaders' ability to be able to sense the emotional state in which the person who has experienced certain disaster is. So empathize with him and see how to balance it. Be passionate about it and create compassion. Now, passion is something which I will never recommend. So the passion from a leader's point of view is different. When you do something very passionately, and which is what most leadership literature goes wrong, passion blinds to rationality. It does not allow you to see a rational outcome. It tends to get you blindly running and pursuing a goal without understanding the consequences. Passion is wrong. Dispassion is right, which means a leader is able to keep his own passion behind, is able to ensure that the people are looking at the situation as it is and doing the right thing, so that they are then able to get over it and fulfill and do the right things that are required, and not just passionately continue to do the wrong thing, even if it is giving you wrong results. The fourth of the seventh element you will see, as I told you, you will find 7 parts in this mystical leadership, or what we call the esoteric leadership, is called mindfulness, equanimity, and calmness. the situation disturbs people in such a bad way that they lose their equanimity, they lose their balance, they lose their calmness, they become suddenly very hyper, they suddenly start screaming, they suddenly start shouting, they show anxiety, they show depression. At that point of time, the esoteric leader who will get the followers to work for him is the one who is mindful of the situation. He is not bothered about what is the ego of the past. He is not bothered about past situation. He's only bothered about how do I help you in the here and now to overcome your problems. And when the followers see a leader doing that, they are able to rise up and start believing in him. And that is when they go to give results which are more higher than what the systems, resources, processes, and technology can give to him. So mindfulness, equanimity, and calmness, total calmness. If a leader himself is not calm, then the rest of the followers will not want to follow him, because they'll say, agar yehi khud dar gaya hai, to hamara kya hoga? All right. The fourth is temperance, reasonableness, and justice. And not everything about esoteric leadership is only linked to adversity, all right? So these are about good times and bad times. What is it that makes followers follow the leader to deliver value and results which are much higher than what efficiency is all about? So it is temperance, your ability to temper the situation, your reasonableness, because people are going to fall, people are going to fall down. And in certain situations, it is reasonable to acknowledge it. In certain situations, they may be falling out of fear. So with reasonableness, when do you massage him and when do you tell him, and when do you at times use a positive kick to get him up and start running? So that is called reasonableness. And also be mindful of justice. A leader who does not have justice will not have open-hearted followership. And unless and until people believe that the leader is just, is wise, is able to really be giving proper justice, they will not follow him. And if they don't follow him wholeheartedly, they will be passively resisting him. And when they passively resist a leader, then the leader's ability to create that additional value out of his esoteric style is going to be missing totally. The sixth is rationality, wisdom, and prudence. Would you want to follow a leader who you believe is not prudent? Would you want to follow a leader who you think is not wise, is taking wrong calls, wrong decisions, indulging in wrong practices, is not rational? No one will follow him. So this is about creating value through people who are followers, and these followers will not follow a leader unless and until the leader reflects by his behavior and style a certain wisdom, a certain prudence, a certain rationality in the decisions he is taking. And that is what creates a certain belief in him, which leads to the whole exercise. Now, these are the 7 important things which are very, very critical when you break open the shell of esoteric leadership. What will you find inside? We run sessions when, of course, I wish I had the time on a longer sessions. I would have taken you through deeper elements of each of what I have spoken to you about. But for a session like this, it is sufficient that you need to understand this. Now, what I'm going to bring you to is a very, very important last part of my discussion, which I wanted to talk to you about. And that is about whole system integrated plasticity. It's a new concept that is being developed. And the whole idea is like this, that in an organization, you will find 2 systems prevailing. At any point of time, there are 2 systems prevailing, all right? One is, of course, the organizational system, which is creating value. So there is a certain value chain in the organization. There is a supply chain working. There is a cash flow chain working. There is a people management chain working. So there are several interconnected chains working to be able to create value for the organization. Each are interdependent on each other. If you don't have cash, you can't supply chain. The supply chain won't work. If supply chain doesn't work, manufacturing doesn't work. Manufacturing doesn't work, you don't generate product. You don't have products, you will not service the market. You don't service the market, you will not get money. You don't get money, you will not be able to pay your employees. So there is an interconnected value chain operating in an organization, which is on the one hand, one of these critical systems. On the other hand, there is a human system operating alongside this, all right? Now, the human system is creating that environment and is the actor of what the organizational value chain is all about. How do you run supply chain? How do you run your cash flows? You'll require people. So the human system is the second system which is operating in an organization, and this is based on operating on the 8 elements that we were talking about. All right, we spoke about all of that. So now what is critical is the relationship between these two systems. The people system is dependent on the organizational system. If organizations don't make profit, if their value chain is not working, if they are not able to, and we saw it in the current lockdown system, that when organizations were not able to operate, it has an indirect effect on the people, all right? So it works. In the same way, the people system also has an impact on the organization system. If a new leader comes and starts treating people badly than what they have been used to under the previous leader, or if things situationally at the house of an employee changes, then his behavior at the workplace impacts the organizational system. So both the systems have a certain element of relationship where one-to-one, one impacts the other impacts the first, all right? Now, what is critical is a unique balance. So every time that an enterprise has a problem in the market, someone as a leader has to go and be mindful that it will have an effect on the human system. And therefore, the human system needs to be managed, because otherwise it will lose its alignment. And when the alignment between the human system and the organizational system is not managed, then the chances are that the system will fail. Right. Mystical leaderships or great leaders are those who are mindful of those changes which are happening in either of the systems and quickly goes and manages what we call the whole system integrated plasticity. Plasticity is about flexibility. Now, your culture should ensure that the systems are not integrated but very rigid. So, example, if there are situations happening outside, you cannot say that my systems in the people subsystem is not going to be impacted. All right. So the organizational culture should reflect that plasticity, which is called the whole system integrated plasticity, to be able to adjust and ensure that one subsystem is adjusted mindfully to match the changes in the other subsystem. And that is what mystical leadership does. And which is why when a leader is seen as addressing the people in times of adversity, people love that leader. Have you not read a thesis where, people said that my leader spoke to me and explained to me and therefore I could fight back, versus my leader was blindfolded, did not talk to us at all. We did not know what was happening, as a consequence of which we could not support what the organization had to do. Those are the two realities. So esoteric leaders are able to manage the whole system integrated plasticity, which is very, very critical to success. And this is the overarching thought I thought I was going to be sharing with you. There is a dynamic, dependent relationship between organization systems and people systems. And to be able to create value, the two systems need to be balanced. Esoteric leadership is about managing effectively the mystic and leadership magic to be able to manage the people system, versus there is an organizational system, the efficiency of which has to be managed by the same leader, but in his managerial role through the resources, systems, technology, and processes. So this is the concept of esoteric leadership at the top line 25-minute kind of a show that you are running. We can at later point, if you want to do about any of this, we can get on together. But this is the concept of esoteric leadership, which I thought I would share with you. And the system has to have whole system integrated plasticity, as I explained to you. Does it make sense?
Yes, there's certainly, Adil, thank you so much. You brought in some new perspectives into leadership, which hitherto was kept under the carpet, I would say. You talked about simplicity, right? You talked about how we need to demystify leadership. And then you talked about the conscious goal and the unconscious goal, or rather the unspoken goals in the organization. Where you spoke, leadership is about value creation, and very eloquently, explain the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, and how many times we mistake manager and leader without understanding the difference between a manager and a leader. And you rightly talked about the esoteric leadership, about charisma, about mysticism, the magnetism, right? And how we can leverage
and the magic,
and how we can leverage leadership for the organization's advantage. And I like when you talked about those 7 qualities of 7 traits which goes into it. Things like spirituality, and people normally don't talk about it. And even in Indian context, forget about the Western context. We talk the leadership in the context of spirituality. And also you said how important soft touch is about. Right? You gave that example that in terms of adversity, how that soft touch is very, very important. And I liked when you said that normally people tend to think passion is a advantage, but then you rightly said passion can sometimes turn to our disadvantage. So therefore, people must be dispassionate enough to be able to understand the other point of view and take a rational decision. And you brought in the concept of the importance of mindfulness, especially in these trying times. And then compassion is very, very important. And you also said that leadership is just not about good time, but also about bad times, how the leader and the people react both in good times and the bad time. I liked when you said sometimes the leader also has to give a positive kick, right? That's the height of positivity. And in the end, of course, you very rightly talked about the plasticity, right? You talked about the whole system integrated plasticity, where a leader, a mystical leader, would have to balance the organization systems versus the human systems in order to be able to leverage the maximum value out of all the resources in the organization, and how important it is to align the people and the system in the organization. I know that 25 minutes is too short a period of time to do justice to such a wonderful topic. I'm sure that we would be able to look at opportunities in the future to go more depth into this subject of esoteric leadership. I just have just a couple of questions for you, Adil.
Okay.
In today's context, do you see any leader who is demonstrating these esoteric leadership qualities? Do you think we have any such leadership examples?
Sure. Look at what, someone like a Ratan Tata or someone like a Azim Premji or someone like Mr. Nader from HCL have done. They have all risen above the requirements and shown magical abilities to understand people, where on the one hand, organizations for the value creation were throwing away people saying, we don't know what businesses are all about, and randomly throwing people out from organizations without understanding the emotionality, not only of the people who are being thrown out, but about the trust and confidence of the people who may temporarily be continuing, because they will be working under an anxiety to know when are they going to be thrown out. All right. So how do you really expect them to wholeheartedly contribute? So there are leaders who have done that. And look at what has happened. Ratan Tata continued to do what and he went on to say that how short-term can be the view of leadership if it believes that throwing employees out is a way to solve a problem in adversity. Absolutely. Can you imagine? All right. So, you have those examples also.
Great, absolutely right. Tata is a living example of people-centric organizations.
Azim Premji has done it. He's done a similar kind of a job.
Right.
So many leaders have done it. Some have done foolish things, and most have done moderately without knowing much about, because the sole problem, Ramesh, as I was telling you, is absence of leadership, which is esoteric. There was leadership which was knowledgeable, but not esoteric. And there is a difference between knowledgeable leadership and esoteric leadership.
Another topic, the question that I had with for you, Adil, is that there is this debate about whether the leadership is just about one person or is it about collective leadership. So what they say is, Will Smith has said this: greatness is not this wonderful, esoteric, elusive, godlike feature, that only the special among us will ever taste. It's something that's truly existing in all of us. So, do you think?
Ramesh, what is more important in your question to be asked can this be learned? So the question is that we have over a period of time grown, as I was telling you, to believe that only that which seems like logic, only that which seems like mathematics, only that which can be put into algorithms are things you could learn, because there was a logical science in which they had to be learned. But things which are mystical, things which are magical, things which are charismatic, we have left it to God's blessings and under the belief that, oh, you are blessed with it, so you have it. The reality is all of this, nothing is a magic. We are all born with inside us all kinds of gifts. Most people have not explored these gifts within us to be able to deliver esoteric style of leadership along with the knowledge, science, and algorithms which are required to run an effective organization.
Wonderfully said, Adil, right? As you said, that it truly exists in all of us. And it's up to us, and of course, using the leader as a catalyst, we try and bring out the esoteric leadership in each one of us in every organization.
What you really require is a good coach, a good coach who can handhold you, make you see those unopened gifts and parcels that you have within us, and helps you to start opening those parcels and using them as you go around showing your leadership in an organization.
Thank you so much, Adil, for very succinctly sharing with us briefly a very complex subject about leadership in a new dimension, the esoteric way. And we'll look forward to having you and hosting you again in the future.
Pleasure.
And,
pleasure. Thank you.
Wish you all the very best in your new endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.